commentator. We move on to our next news. A Polish court has refused to extradite a Ukrainian suspect to Germany, allegedly involved in sabotaging the Nord Stream gas pipelines, and ordered his immediate release. However, the ruling can be appealed. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk has applauded the decision in a post on X. The explosions that damaged the Nord Stream lines occurred in September 2022. 7 months after the beginning of Ukraine war. Judge Dariusz Lubowski has said that the Polish court had no evidence and that Germany provided only very general information. He has also argued the sabotage was a military operation that was not illegal, claiming that the act was carried out on behalf of Kyiv and therefore only the Ukrainian state could be held responsible. Let's listen into what the judge has said.
Ukraińscy żołnierze i wszyscy działający w ramach sił zbrojnych Ukrainy, także sił specjalnych albo na zlecenie sił specjalnych, nie mogą być uznawani za terrorystów czy sabotażystów, albowiem realizując wszelkimi sposobami cel, jakim jest obrona ich ojczyzny, osłabiają wroga. Wysadzenie infrastruktury krytycznej dowolnego państwa w czasie pokoju przez wrogie służby specjalne czy grupy terrorystyczne są sabotażem i stanowią przestępstwo sabotażu. W artykule 607p paragraf 1 punkt 5 Kodeksu Postępowania Karnego. Obrona jest to...
Now for this discussion, we go back to Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mark, for staying with us. Now, looking at this news, how might this ruling affect relations between Poland, Germany, and Ukraine, given the sensitive nature of the accusations and also the ongoing conflict that's still ongoing?
A great question, very sensitive, and I'm sorry that I can't see the Polish that was then said. But taking your comments before, playing the judge's words when he's talking about the evidence that was presented, etc. This is, on the one hand, this is, it seems as though it's an open and shut case, but there's also complications, and you are right to raise that, because again, this is about energy coming from Russia into Europe. And how this sabotage was then done, this action was then done. There's a very famous reporter, journalist in America that exposed this at that time. You are right. It's about the sensitivity of what is going to happen between Poland, what is going to happen between Germany, and how this is going to play out in regard to Germany, in regard to its energy, in regard to the industrialization of Germany, and in regard to its economy, and of course keeping its citizens warm. That's why at the time there was a sort of a mooted reaction to what had happened at that time, and that then has been, as you said, it's then gone to court and then is played out there, and the Polish have turned around and said the actions that they've said, from Donald Tusk, who's another very interesting individual that people need to look into his past as well. But the key thing is, I think behind the scenes this is going to be very touchy, and behind the scenes the German authorities are then saying we want this individual extradited, because it has put their energy policies, put their citizens in regard to keeping warm in a place that is not good for them at all. Asuma.
Yes, Mark. Yes, I also agree with you. Donald Tusk is an interesting individual, but going back to this, could this decision by a Polish court set a precedent for how states, especially European states, handle alleged covert military actions by allied countries, and what impact could or might this have on future cross-border legal processes?
Again, a very good question. The point is, as I come back to this, I don't fully understand what evidence was put forward. What we do know is that this action took place. What we do know is that this has affected Germany on a number of different levels. Well, it does seem around the world that we see the weaponization of courts, of judges, and are they in a position to be able to weigh up the facts and give the reason for that, and that to be accepted by both sides. And as you quite rightly say, in this case and in others, it's political. We don't fully know what has gone on behind closed doors. Has anyone put pressure on this particular judge? I'm not accusing that. It's because other evidence elsewhere in situations you wonder about these things. Remember, of course, within Poland as well, they've had these drones that have come over. They assume from Russia, fighters have gone up in the air. We looking at where Poland is. Also, the fact that they are then looking at how their own defences, etc., in regard to dealing with supporting Ukraine and then dealing with Russia. There are all of these things in the mix. But you and I hope, we always want our judicial systems around the world, in whatever country, to be fair, to not be influenced by outside influences, not to be influenced politically. We would hope for that. But in this case, like many, we can't make those assumptions.
Yes, indeed. This case still lacks a lot of transparency, I agree. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us and sharing that insight. Great learning from you. Now we move on to our next news. A prominent Italian journalist had been threatened by the mafia, and his parked car was blown up by a bomb overnight, causing no injuries but sparking widespread outrage. Sigfrido Ranucci's vehicle was destroyed by the explosion in Pomezia, near Rome, which also damaged the family's other car and the house next door. The force of the explosion was so strong that it could have killed anyone passing by at that moment. Anti-mafia prosecutors in Rome are investigating this attack in Ranucci, who has lived under police protection for several years due to death threats. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has strongly condemned this attack and called it a serious act of information. Justice Minister Carlo Nordio has said that an attack on a journalist is an attack on the state, while the Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi has said that he had ordered an increase in the journalist's security to the maximum. Now we move on to our next news. A huge number of mourners were injured in a stampede at the state funeral of Kenyan opposition leader and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, as the crowd surged to view his body. Odinga has commanded a passionate following in the East African nation, and his memorial ceremonies have attracted huge crowds. 3 people were shot dead by security forces a day earlier when mourners breached a gate of the stadium hosting a public viewing of his late body. Odinga, a major figure for decades in Kenyan politics, who was once a political prisoner and ran unsuccessfully for president 5 times, has passed away on Wednesday. He was 80 years old and he was in India, where he had been receiving medical treatment. That's a wrap on the World Report. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around